swear Netflix is just addicted to race swaps. And I think that's what we're seeing with a new show that came out based on the true stories that happened in England about knife attacks against little girls, which is something nobody wants to see, everyone is against, and everyone wants to hear this story. But when you turn on this show, I had a sneaking suspicion that some things were just not adding up about this story, and some of the characters, some of the overall designs and political talking points that are much in line with some of the talking points that we saw in 2022 when it came to toxic masculinity on the internet, related to different influencers that were just kind of taking hold of the internet, that were being forced out there, seeing them in every single location and news station talking about them. And of course, the person I'm talking about is Andrew Tate and the Manosphere, the people that were always talking about women and this and that and pickup artistry and all that nonsense that kind of trove the internet for a year or two. And I think this is a reflective piece aiming and targeting at those people, which I don't have a problem with. But I have a problem with when you're taking real stories and you're kind of changing the entirety of the subject to fit your narrative. And that's what we're seeing now with Adolescence, where it's trying to say, oh, these toxic masculinity is invading our space, is corrupting people, and is making these small white boys into violent murderers and killers. I'm like, wow, we got to do something about this. Until you actually see the real story that this is based upon, and you're wondering, okay, why didn't you use the real person? Why didn't you use an actor that looks like the real person? Because when you see the actual person this movie is based upon, you kind of get a few hints of what's actually going on with this character, with this story that is kind of incongruent with reality. And this is a teenager sentenced to life in South London for a murder of a teenage girl. And of course, people are going to be mad at this situation. People, rightfully so, should hear this story. But when the story has nothing to do with the elements that you're purporting to talk about in your movie, it kind of shows like, okay, you don't even care about the reality. This is not even based on the true story. You're just making a completely new story based on the politics that you want to espouse in a TV show. And that's the case here, because the person that committed this violent act was nothing related to toxic masculinity, nothing related to the talking heads and whatever pickup culture talking point that was out there. This is nothing about that. This is a person with their own personal criminal background, own religious background, that is the opposite of what is being talked about in this show. And that is the thing that I kind of found offensive about this, where I could tell what every character was going to do based on their race. Even before knowing the roots of this story, I knew all the black characters would be good guys in this story. I knew all the white characters will carry some sort of guilt towards the situation. It doesn't matter how nice they were talking about. Even the father had some guilty part in his son's interactions. And I think this is a situation that we see all over Hollywood, where everything is so easily figured out based on the race of the characters. I think that is the result with Adolescence here. And I think that was the result with a lot of Netflix TV shows, where you kind of know what's going to happen based on the character's race. And it's kind of funny to see this happening from people that are so staunchly anti-racist, make content that is so particular in its racism. And I think that is the case right here with Adolescence, where it's so simple to figure out what's going on based on the characters that are there. This used to be only applicable to adult white males, adult black males, and white females, but now it's applicable to white teenage boys. And I think this is a situation we're seeing here with Adolescence, where they took this character who was based on a black Muslim person in England, and they turned it into a white Christian boy. And it kind of makes you think, what is the priorities of the people that are making content for Netflix? It's not about the facts. It's not about trying to actually get the true story out there. It's about pushing their own narrative of what this true story should be. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing right here, where this TV show is trending #1 on Netflix, and it's being talked about in the United Kingdom government, where they're talking about this story like it actually happened anywhere in the Western world, where it didn't. It only happened in such cases related to immigrant populations and people in demographics that are highly concentrated in poverty locations, where there's a lot of violent activity. It kind of just breaks the illusion of whatever this story was trying to be, because it's based on multiple people that did violent acts. We had the case of the murder of 3 little girls in London as well, and it was done by a Muslim active terrorist figure that was an immigrant into the country. And this is the situation that we keep seeing being avoided by a lot of popular streamers and political oriented production companies. And I think that's what we're seeing with Adolescence, where it had a point where it wanted to attack these manosphere people, anything related. I swear everything I've heard about pickup artists or manosphere people comes from people complaining about it, because I really haven't heard anything about Andrew Tate until people started complaining about him everywhere. And this is clearly the point of the story. He's trying to attack people like Andrew Tate that they keep incessantly talking about. I would know nothing about this guy if they never talked about him, keep telling me he's the most evil person in the world. They're making Netflix TV shows about people inspired by him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You keep talking about this guy. You're making him more relevant. Everywhere I go, everyone's talking about him flying to America. Florida governors are talking about him. Like, who is this guy? Why do you keep talking about him like he's actually relevant to society? It seems like he really is relevant to society if you're making TV shows about him. It makes me wonder, what is his influence so important to a lot of these governmental organizations? I know he may be like a criminal or something, but I'm like, okay, we have some few other criminals out there that are associated like with Epstein and maybe assassination attempts. We should probably go after them. But this seems to be the prime target for hate right now. And I'm just wondering, what is so powerful about this character where you're creating false Netflix shows trying to attack whatever ideologies he's espousing? And I think that is the thing that we have to understand right now. Netflix has a position where they're trying to put out some propaganda pieces to change and alter the perception of reality, to attack who they see as their opponent. I'm wondering, why are they willing to subvert actual real life stories that need to be talked about? And we saw this happening with other properties like Netflix Cleopatra, where they went out of their way to make her an African queen. And I'm thinking, of course, that's obviously not true, but it kind of goes in line with their ideology where they're trying to remake and change history to fit their political ideology of what they want reality to be, of what they want to see their political supporters see as the actual reality of any situation. And they want to form reality in such a way because it's in line with their multicultural identity that they want to put out there. And I think that's the case with Adolescence as a show. It's in line with their fierce hatred of anything that is perceivably masculine. And I think that is the main goal for this, to say that masculine energy, masculine approaches to everything, masculine identity is inherently evil and violent. And I think that is simply just not the case, especially when you see some of the cases of the actual murders that this story is based upon. It's not based on masculine energy. It's based on poverty, hatred, religiosity, immigration. It's based on so much other things that have nothing to do with masculinity. It has more in line with culture. And I think that's unfortunate for them to actually be lost on this particular stance, because they could have made something actually relevant to the situation that could have had people learn and be more aware of the things that are happening in their country. But more than anything, they were more focused on attacking masculinity in and of itself. But this is just my thoughts on the situation. Maybe you actually like this show. I tried watching it. It was kind of terrible to me, but other people may enjoy it. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me what you think about the situation. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.